This week in games, the PlayStation 6 is on the top of the minds of executives. Silent Hill Remake gets announced, and is Microsoft Game Pass increasing in price again? This is the Two Penny Gamescast. What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 255. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
Hi. Shaky is spelled C-S-H-A-K-Y, not S-H-A-K-E-Y, which is what I thought it was.
That's also what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
Might be like an English or an American English to European English thing.
Google Docs, maybe they're kind of biased?
They might be. Or we're repping the wrong country,
Well,
which may want to do these days, you know?
Well, maybe not. Okay. Not comparison to the Don't make us do that. I mean, the UK, they do about the exact same stuff the US does, just more pathetically, because they don't need to, because they're not the global hegemony.
Are they currently assassinating political leaders on the other side of the room?
Yeah, they support it. That's the problem.
But are they currently doing it?
They give weapons to Israel,
I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about homeboy in Minnesota who just got shot.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
But you said other countries.
No, political leaders on the other side of the aisle.
Well, no.
No. Yeah. I don't know.
Unless
Listen,
you want to start talking,
the ground you're on's a little shaky here,
unless
Connor.
you want to start talking about the Irish and the English, and, it gets a little shaky.
Are they celebrating? Are they celebrating the birthday of their political figureheads with large military parade? Oh, they are. Oh, but they have a long history of doing that because they run under that type of government. Oh, well, that's fine. That's their choice then.
Oh, you're talking about the UK?
Yeah.
For the best, the strongest welfare king and queen in the world.
Well, they just have a king right now, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Huh.
That guy hasn't kicked the bucket yet?
No.
Crazy.
He has cancer. So, time's ticking.
Damn.
Yep. But World War III is almost upon us. Hey, as far as American news, that only matters to Americans, it's been pretty good.
Has it?
Yeah.
I just talked about how homie got assassinated.
Yes, that's bad. But also the biggest protests, political protests in U.S. history.
Okay, that's not a good thing.
That's good. That means people are coming out and they're putting their foot down, Tavin.
Right.
It's hopeful. And then also you have the military parade, as you were just mentioning, was pathetic looking. So it just made them look weak. It made them look weak. It's great.
Like 20,000 people maybe or something like
that?
No,
100,000.
It was 100,000?
But
okay.
It was spread out so much because it's a whole parade.
Yeah.
And they were expecting at least 200,000 that it looked sparse. Versus 5 million protesters in no King's March.
I saw an 11 million count, but I was like, that doesn't
it's
seem...
a bit, that's over-exaggerated, I guarantee.
Yeah.
But, there's at least a light at the end of the tunnel unless nuclear war starts happening. But
any day now.
Yeah.
Any day now.
Kind of eradicates the... I will say, though, be aware of any false flag attacks. It wouldn't exactly be the first time. Right now, they're sending a U.S. battleship to the Middle East that was set to be decommissioned in 1 year. So if that starts getting bombed, maybe think about who's bombing it.
What does that mean? False flag.
Where you have an attack of some sort, like what happened with Vietnam, or the Spanish-American Civil War. Spanish-American War, not Civil War. Where you had attacks that occurred against U.S. ships, but they were staged to make it seem like it was somebody else.
We sent a bullshit ship over there knowing it was get shot at.
But usually, I'm less clear on Vietnam. I'm pretty sure it was U.S. bombs that hit it. Or something like that. I'll look that up. Certainly with the Spanish-American War, we blew up one of our ships. And we're like, the Cubans did it. Where were the fucking...
And they're like, we don't have bombs.
As someone who likes history, I'm making an embarrassment out of myself right now.
You often do on this show.
I very do. But with video games and art, I'll accept that. History, I'm making a
we just recorded a Piggy Bank episode where you didn't know the difference between a fighting game and an action game.
And then when I questioned on what exactly those were, you couldn't give me a hardline answer. Neither could Phil.
I gave you an answer.
Not a hardline one, though, so not a strong one.
But you couldn't give me an answer as to how they are the same.
I think I did. I did so by contesting everything you said with, a fighting game does do that.
Yeah, but your contesting was the intellectual equivalence of going, but I don't care.
That was later when you were like, well, I think it's action and not fighting. Well, you're
Fighting
in Phil's like,
games aren't action games.
Oh.
They're not. Fighting games have action in them, but that's a different type of action.
Oh, well, I didn't know. I guess that means it's not an action game.
Not.
Uh-huh.
Because a game has action and it doesn't make it an action game.
This guy reads a book and then he verbatim just goes off what that book says.
Connor,
in this case, there's not even a book, though.
Connor, I don't read.
I know. There's not even a book, so you got to create one. The metaphysical one that exists outside of our consciousness.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Two Penny Gamescast. Each week, me and Connor come to you with the nerdy news you need to know concerning the video game industry. We each come to you with two topics, 2 pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents on them. Of course, leave your 2 pennies down in the comments below. Give us your 2 cents down in the comments below about any of today's show topics in which we can incorporate an audience 2 penny segment, much like we did last week, but there's no interesting comments this week. Do better this time. Do better. I don't know.
It's not our fault.
It's not our fault. We're giving the content. We're pumping it out. But we come out here and we're like, hey, ill looks cool, and someone in the comment goes, I also think ill looks cool, and I go, great. I'm so glad that you think that. But what else is there to say about that? You know what I'm saying?
Besides giving a thumbs up.
Especially because we gave great content last week about how PlayStation and Capcom are potentially beefing right now. We gave great content breaking down all the games that happened at the PlayStation State of Play, the Summer Game Fest, the Xbox Showcase. It was a good week. It was a good week. And y'all didn't give me anything.
By the way, the false flag attack that occurred was the Gulf of Tonkin incident. The first attack was an actual attack against a covert operation being done by the U.S. military. The second one, there's no proof it happened, which was the instigator for the Vietnam War. True incident. So, watch out for false flags. I just gave history. That's all you have to do.
I mean,
sit there.
I was trying to find my way back in, but I couldn't remember where I left off in the rigmarole. But I remembered because, of course, this show premieres live every Monday at twitch.tv/TwoPennyGames, where you can watch us record all of our podcasts live. And if that's too much for you and you can't make it on Monday, don't worry. This show premieres every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@TwoPennyGames, and mainstream podcast services of your choice. Connor, what are you doing?
What am I doing?
What are you doing? Because, of course, every week...
Oh, what am I doing?
We have this thing called a Substack, where at TwoPennyGamesNews.substack.com, you write the news stories for the week. Now, last week was not necessary. We were talking about showcases. It wasn't necessary for you to write anything. The week before, though, you didn't write anything.
I think I did.
No, you didn't.
I didn't know.
You didn't.
It was the week before that where I wrote something.
You did write something, and we ended up not using it because the recording crashed.
Things happen, yes.
Yeah. But this week, also, nothing. What's going on with you?
Well, believe it or not,
Yeah.
painting. And editing videos for our shorts. Go watch our shorts,
Go
guys.
watch the shorts, the great shorts. Great shorts, Connor.
There'll
Good
be
job.
more coming.
One just dropped just now about Silent Hill F.
One will be tomorrow at 12.
Yay.
So-
Fantastic work, Connor.
Stories, though.
Yeah.
Wait till next week.
Okay. All right. Well, subscribe to the TwoPennyGamesNews.substack.com link in the description down below to see baby stories will come next week that
buddy,
Connor writes.
Buddy, stories are coming.
But until then, we're jumping to our first topic of the day, my first penny of the day.
I wonder why.
The PlayStation 6, Sony says future platforms top of mind, exploring new and enhanced ways to play. This is from VGC over at by Andy Robinson. PlayStation has discussed the future console strategy and said it's committed to, quote, exploring a new and enhanced way for players, end quote, to engage with games, and that the future of the platform is, quote, top of mind. Sony Interactive Entertainment's new president and CEO, Hideaki Nishino, was asked during a business segment meeting about the future of PlayStation console hardware and whether it could be superseded by cloud gaming. Nishino emphasized that PlayStation now has multiple generations of experience providing players with cloud-based gameplay and stated that while he views it as a viable option for players, he believes overall demand remains for the, quote, local execution of games. Quote, cloud streaming is progressing well from a... Let me take that again. Cloud streaming is progressing well from a technical standpoint, as we have demonstrated with our offerings. But end-to-end network stability is not in our control, Nishino said. And the higher cost per playtime compared to the traditional console model remains a challenge. Cloud gaming is increasingly providing an additional option for players to access content, but our belief is that the majority of players continue to want to experience gaming through local execution without dependency on network conditions. And PS5 and PS5 Pro have validated this thesis, I believe. The CEO went on to reference how Sony's console business has evolved into a multifaceted platform with a significant portion of its 124 million monthly active users still playing on PlayStation 4. Quote, we now have a large ecosystem of highly engaged players across both the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 generations. So naturally, therefore, there's a huge interest in our next generation console strategy. While we cannot share further details at this stage, the future of the platform is top of mind. We are committed to exploring a new and enhanced way for players to engage with our content and services. According to documents published as part of the court battle over Microsoft's Activision Blizzard acquisition, Sony doesn't expect to launch its next-gen console until 2028 at the earliest. Sony has reportedly contracted AMD to design and fabricate the PlayStation 6's chips due to the company's prioritization of backwards compatibility. SIE's SVP of Finance and Corporate Development, Lynn Azar, was then asked in Friday's business segment interview if Sony expects to see an impact on profits in the year its next console launches, and as has been typical with past consoles. Azar again emphasized the point that Sony's players are now engaged across multiple platforms, including PS4, PS5, and PC, and noted that the vast majority of its revenue now comes from subscriptions and microtransactions, which should provide protection during any future platform migration. Quote, as Nishina-san mentioned, we're still exploring what the future of our platform would look like. So, therefore, whilst we cannot provide any further guidance on operating income in future years, I'd like to reemphasize that our financial profile as a business has evolved in line with our strategy. So, we've reduced traditional cyclicality, this word right here, this one.
Cyclicity?
Cyclicity. You're right.
Cyclicity.
Cyclist, that's a hard word.
Cyclicity.
As you describe, the cycles.
Yeah.
We're done with cycles, is what he's saying. As you describe it, by establishing a large ecosystem of players across both the PS4 and PS5 generations, which provides recurring revenues. So, this has driven overall high and stable level of spend on content and services, which, by the way, now constitute over 2/3 of our revenue, providing a consistent, predictable, and profitable base of our revenue. Azar added, PS5 represents our most engaged players, with the highest spend per player versus prior generations. Our PS4 players as well are still active and spending as well. So by providing players with increasing options of how to access the platform, we're able to better target the different play patterns and monetization profits of different customer segments. And as we continue to drive a multi-generational ecosystem into the future, we'll provide new ways for players to access the platform and experience our content and services. So, Connor, the PlayStation 6 is coming. Surprise, surprise. But does that matter to your average gamer?
I don't think so. So, there was another story that broke this.
Neither do I, but I think maybe for different reasons.
Well, to bring it over to Xbox for a second.
Ha.
Recently, Witcher 4 got a tech demo. People were talking about that. And this week, CD Projekt Red devs were talking about how they weren't sure that Witcher 4 is going to hit 60 FPS at the Xbox Series X.
S or X?
X and S. Oh, fuck. Shit.
I don't know what you're talking about here, so yeah, this is interesting.
Yeah, Xbox Series X, yes, compared to the Series X. Point still remains, though, that consoles are in a weird place where if you were to ask most gamers, they would say, where are we going to go from here? PS5 kind of already provides the high-fidelity games that you're expecting, at least the highest of fidelity games that are out there right now. All the things we've seen come down the pipeline, it doesn't seem like any of the strong modern consoles wouldn't be able to handle them. And so it almost seems to me like this is just a case of them trying to rationalize it to themselves to already release a PlayStation 6, even though they don't necessarily have to. Because something I've noticed with PlayStation is that whenever they
if their plans are 2028 and the console launched in 2020, that's 8 years.
It is.
That's a normal cycle.
It's a normal cycle, but even they admit that that's kind of going by the wayside now. And so, will most people look at it and see it as a thing to buy in the same way they did with the PS5? No, I don't think they will. I think that's for the best, seeing as how the rollout of those consoles, like the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, were so problematic with so many people wanting them that it took some people up to a year of actively trying to get a console, to actually get one. And so it seems like from a distribution perspective, they wouldn't really see a reason to not provide a higher advanced console. Since, again, even though we're talking in the confines of the console space, PC shows you have more room to go up. Do you need to, though? No. But what's stopping them from doing so? Since they'll have a base of consumers that'll buy it because it's the new PlayStation thing, and another part of people who will always want to have the greatest new tech that they can get, maybe someone who doesn't have a PC but still just wants to stay in the console space would jump at the chance to get a new upgraded version. And then, if you have a new PlayStation come out, even if right now you don't need to, the games you're making can still be played on the PS5 very, very comfortably down the line with the life cycle of, the expanded life cycle of the PlayStation 5 and the natural life cycle of this PS6, if it ends up coming out. At a certain point, there would be a shift in the game-making process to where, oh, wait, now you need something more than just a PS5 to play it. And so I see this as a way that what do they really have to lose by making a new console, since the way, consoles are, rolled out with Xbox, with Nintendo, aren't done the same way they used to be. You could just kind of prep yourself for how the games industry landscape is going to change down the line. So when I first heard this story, I kind of was thinking to myself, this is stupid, you're jumping the gun, but why not jump the gun at this stage? What do you have to lose?
I still don't think I don't think we're getting it until at least 2028, like their files with the acquisition show. My thing about it is, it's just like, how much does this matter for your average guy? And I agree with you. It doesn't. Not really. I think we've kind of like formed a bit of like a with technology and price point, a bit of like a pyramid here, where your baseline stuff that, yes, is not as good, is substantially cheaper though and more accessible for people to play, whereas your higher end stuff, where things are going to be super nice and look the best and run the best, is going to be more expensive, and that's going to be for the hyper enthusiasts. I'm talking the ones even higher who really care about their specs more than you and I do, right?
Because to bring it to that, I was saying before, the average consumer won't really want to go and buy a PS6. I don't think we would either. Like you and me, we don't need to.
Maybe not. Yeah, maybe not at launch with the way that so many PS4 games carried over into, or so many PS5 games went backwards into the PS4 generation. You could play games like God of War Ragnarok on your PlayStation 4. It would take a key title for me to go, okay, now it's time for me to jump the ship. Or if there was like a huge technological difference between the two, which I just don't believe that there would be in this modern era. Now, there would come a time where I would feel the need to upgrade, of course, because technology is going to continuously evolve and upgrade and get better and better and better. But I don't buy a new phone every time a new phone comes out. No. I don't upgrade my PC every time a new graphics card comes out. I just don't. It takes a couple of years. I need to start registering that games are not running as well as they could be on my PS5 in comparison to a PS6, but at that point, probably even a PS6 Pro, in order to really care. And now that we have these mid-gen refreshes with the Pro series of consoles, I don't foresee myself as someone who's been a diehard PlayStation player in the ecosystem for pretty much my entire life. I don't see the need to buy a PlayStation 6 with how the 5 has been treating me right now. But on top of that, when the PS6 Pro inevitably comes out, or whatever they call it, the equivalent of 3 to 4 years into that life cycle, when they put out another one, that might be my jumping in point.
Which would be funny because I never go into the Pro consoles. I never see the point in it because I'm not so.
Oh, there was but between 4 and 4 Pro, there was a point.
Fair enough, but like the PS5 Pro,
Yeah,
not
I don't see a
gonna-
point. I don't see a point in that. Undeniably, it's better. Undeniably, yeah.
Yeah.
But my the game runs better. It's able to render more.
But do I care?
It's pretty. Yeah. Do I care? No, not really. But every cycle and a half of consoles, I might start caring and so forth. And then now it just becomes less about how quickly do we get to those cycles and just where each individual consumer is with their cycle. If I'm at a 5 and I decide, I don't want to jump in until 6 Pro, well, then that's a cycle and a half. And then maybe I'm on a cycle and a half thing. So maybe I don't get the 7. Maybe I don't even get the 7 Pro. Maybe I just wait till the 8 or whatever, and that's the choice that the gamer now has to have, the consumer now has to have. They have to have the intelligence and do the research in order to figure out, okay, what's the next upgrade for me personally that I want to do. And the baseline thing with consoles that matters the most is just that it is plug in and play. Whether it's through a download, whether it's through cloud stream, disc-based media is going away, so maybe not that anymore. But whether it's through a download or a cloud stream, I agree with them. The being able to do it on the local, no connection to hardware, execution still matters. It's still going to matter for the next 10 years, easily, right? At some point, it won't. At some point in our lifetimes, it won't. But
why concern ourselves with that now?
not a problem right now.
Yeah.
Not a problem right now. Now, this is, I think, showing us where Xbox's change in strategy, I think, is working or is planned to work for the long term, where they just understand that gamers want to play everything, everywhere, wherever they are in that moment. So that's why systems like Xbox Play Anywhere are in effect. That's why the cloud streaming facet of Xbox has been in effect for years, And PlayStation is working with that. They're not forgetting that on the side. Like, it still exists. They talk about it here. Like, yeah, we've done some cloud streaming stuff. Yes, clearly it's effective. Yes, clearly, it's something we want to continue doing. But there's still the element of you wanna be able to play regardless of the network that you're on. And it's also interesting to me that they bring up the facet of revenue with consoles. Revenue typically goes down because you're spending so much in manufacturing that it hurts profits, right? But it allows people to buy the PlayStation, whatever, at a loss for Sony, so then they can buy software at a profit. And now they're saying, oh, dude, like over 2/3 of our revenue is through subscription services, microtransactions, or just smaller transactions. And the people who stay up to date with their technology are continuously buying more and more. So it, like, for them, their focus is always going to be on who has the most modern stuff, and that's a range. When the PS6 comes out, they're still going to care about PlayStation 5 players. But I'll tell you who they're not going to care about. Mm-hmm. That 120 million PS4 players, y'all going to have to jump over at some point. Now, maybe if you're on a PS4, you don't feel the need to buy a PS6 when it comes out, but you might start looking at that PS5 Pro a little bit differently.
All which will be cheaper than they are now. So
ideally, hopefully,
If not, something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
Yeah,
Something's very wrong. But that's the idea, right? Is like, hey, I didn't feel the need to jump to a PlayStation 5. Mm. You and I did, but they didn't. You know,
I mean,
perfectly valid.
A thing we don't really feel the need to do right now that'll change is the Nintendo Switch 2. Like, when that came out, I wasn't like, oh shit, I need to buy it. Because I would buy it and I'd be like, yeah, this plays better than my current Switch. But besides that, Mario Kart, I wouldn't play that a lot in my free time. I'd play that with friends, and somebody would probably have it at that point. Now, again,
I'm looking at that Donkey Kong and going, oof,
see, that's going to change with things like that. I'm not, like, even still rushing to get Donkey Kong, but I'll play it.
Yeah.
I want to. Point is that, the need to buy the new console as soon as possible isn't around anymore. It's going away.
I wouldn't. Nintendo Switch 2 sold 3.5 million in its first week. It's the best-selling Nintendo console ever at this point.
But Nintendo's always been the exception where they're going to do well, regardless of how the other aspects of the console market are going on. Like the PS5 and the Xbox Series X could be pretty not well liked, and Nintendo would still be making tons of money. Or if they were like massively popular as they are, they'd still be making a lot of money because it's Nintendo.
Sure, yeah, but how long? Like,
How long will that last?
how long does that last when the focus becomes where can I play my game, not how well can it run? You know, because
That's
at some
true.
point it's just all going to plateau.
But even still, Nintendo is Nintendo, and you won't. Even if you say I want to play my games wherever, those aren't going to include Nintendo games with however Xbox does it or PlayStation does it.
I mean, it all entirely depends because we're constantly bumping up against this conversation of, well, how much detail, how much fidelity do you want in your game versus how long it takes to make that game versus how much stress it puts on a development team versus if the increasing budget versus the profitability of the game matters in the grand scheme of things. We have the conversation of all the time of we are okay with how games looked 5 to 10 years ago. We're okay with that. They would still sell really well today. You look at the landscape today. There's a bunch of games out here that are great hits that don't look necessarily the best. There are plenty of games that are, crazy good and sell like hotcakes and so forth. But like at some point, like, does it matter? And then you get into the conversation of AI and using AI in development and how that could speed things along and make things cheaper and all these things. So yeah, it's just the constantly like balancing of all the spinning plates of price, consumer interest, technical fidelity, and what it costs to make that technology versus using actual artists to create the art. Like all of these different things have to be balanced all at the same time in this medium because it is a technology-based art form.
And, this whole conversation is a lot more interesting than I would have initially thought because, again, when I hear PS6, I'm just thinking, okay, they're trying to just, do what they've always done. They're continuing the trend, and it's, same old news, but it's going to have a different effect than it has in the past. But there is reason to put out a PS6 in this changing console gaming market. So,
and again, we're not getting it this holiday season. Like this is still 2-3 years away.
It's top of mind, which means it's not even like
Listen,
hardline.
if you're 2 or 3 years away from a new console launch, it should be top of your mind.
Yeah.
Like that should be you should be looking at these different tech companies and going, okay, can you make new chips for us? That should be where we are at. Like this is a very normal console cycle. It's just we are now hyper aware of all of the updates where before we weren't.
Yeah.
You didn't know how your PS4 was made. You just knew it got made eventually.
It was probably made in China or something like
now
that.
we have too much access to too much information that the general populace just doesn't need. So now we see headlines like PS6 is coming, and we all go, oh, nothing happened on the PlayStation 5. Well, yeah, nothing has happened yet, but you got another 3 years of the PS5 generation.
Maybe it'll explode.
And usually, the end of the generation is almost always more interesting than the beginning of it. Usually.
Yeah.
There's examples in 64 where that, begs to differ.
PlayStation 2 is probably as well.
What is in the early PS2? I don't know the PS2 library well enough in terms of dates to say that.
Yeah,
but
it
PS2
seems like
came out 2002.
That console seems like it hit the ground running, though.
I think that's purely just because games were easier and cheaper to make, and so you could make more of them and you could make them faster.
Fair.
So you got 5 Ratchet and Clank games. You got including the spinoffs. You got 2.5 Metal Gears. And then just a bunch of other random stuff filling out the Sly Coopers, Jack and Daxter's.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of Crash and Spyro games still kicking around at that point. So and not to mention, what is Siphon Filter popping at this time? I don't even know. I don't know. So it's just a different time, different era, different way of making things, but now it's all about how big can these games get. Oh shit, we don't care. Anyways, moving on to topic number 2, Connor. This is going to be your first topic of
why.
Why?
Yeah,
because I said so.
No, that's fair too.
There you go. Take it away.
Not what I was expecting you to say, but this is from IGN. Good old Wesley Yinpool. Silent Hill 1 remake officially in development at Bloober Team. Konami has announced. Konami had a big announcement ready for its Konami Press Start live showcase, a Silent Hill 1 remake. The Silent Hill remake is officially in development at Bloober Team, the developer that handled the well-received Silent Hill 2 remake. There's not much to go on, unfortunately, but we did get a brief tease during the showcase that included the Silent Hill logo and its iconic music. No release date was mentioned. For more, check out everything. So, it's just out there now.
We kind of like hinted at this last week when we talked about Konami's doing their own showcase. You know, the big boys are done, but we're still getting updates for the Summer Game Fest season and so forth like this. And this is the big update from that. We also got, you know, in terms of Konami, we got updates to Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. A little bit more information about what their online mode is that they hinted at. Really not so much like an online ecosystem, but more pretty much just a mode.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what it needs. I don't need constant updates to Metal Gear Delta, Snake Eater, and so forth like this. But this is the big one. The one that, like we said, hey, of the big 3 things that they got going on, what is this mystery one that they got? Mm-hmm. And this is what it is. Silent Hill remake from Blooper Team, makers of the Silent Hill 2 remake.
I wonder how long this was in development. Did they wait until 2 came out to say, we're going to greenlight this project, or were they already working on it, but it didn't get into full swing until they saw how good Silent Hill 2 did? I think the latter, because they announced it pretty close than you would expect them to do, just coming off the back of Silent Hill 2 remake, and also having the other Silent Hill F coming out this year. So
yeah,
I wonder how. I think it's been in development for at least a little bit.
Maybe.
See, it's the baselines for what you do when you create a game.
My question is Blooper Team's coming with a game next year, Chronos, which looks fantastic. I'm excited for Chronos. But how big is this team now?
Well, it seems like it's Konami's flagship team. So if
it's not their team though,
but it's being made by Konami. So I wouldn't think money would be a big issue, especially when Konami is trying to make a comeback. They've been gone for a good couple of years.
I think this is, well, they do say in development, which does mean something. So I don't know. It could have been in pre-development for a little bit, but I think it's going to be a few years until we see this.
Oh, I think a couple, like 2, maybe 3.
I would lean more on that 3 than that 2. Probably maybe even closer to 4. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see and find out with all of that. But Connor, does the Silent Hill 1 remake excite you?
Very much so.
Yeah.
So before this comes out, I'm gonna play the first one.
Look at you doing your due diligence.
Oh, I am. I really want to, especially because the Silent Hill game I want to play the most next is Silent Hill 3. You need to play the first one. It's a direct sequel.
Oh,
funny enough, and that's basically where a lot of my knowledge of Silent Hill 1 goes out the window. I have a friend, the one who made me or recommended I play Silent Hill 2, which turned out to be a very good thing, had played it after Silent Hill 2. Described it as clunky, kind of the same things about the old Silent Hills. But again, he says even this old-ass game was still able to be scary and have moments where the camera would shift and it would immediately turn into like a different-looking area. Because they would have like the static camera movement. So it would just it would, of course, play around with that, create some scary moments, creepy moments. It has like industrial-like music, which I'll have to look at what exactly that means, because I usually think like loud, a lot of crashing noises that kind of, are meant to kind of confuse you and unsettle you. But, again, my knowledge with Silent Hill 1 is very limited. But because it's such an important game in video game history, and you recently did a video talking about how remakes are great at allowing people to go back to the other old games and play them again. And with something like Silent Hill, you don't really have a lot of modern ways to play it. I had to emulate Silent Hill 2. I'm probably going to have to emulate Silent Hill 1. Sorry, guys, you don't make PS1s anymore. So at the end of the day, this is a good way to start getting the ball rolling on Silent Hill, as it's clearly already started with Silent Hill 2 Remake and all of those other side projects they've been doing, as bad as they
And you and I are both hopeful for Silent Hill F.
Yeah. Because Silent Hill 2 was... It instilled a lot of confidence in us, and it probably instilled a lot of confidence in Blooper Team on behalf of Konami.
Oh, I would hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. My thing with Blooper Team is it really just depends on how well Chronos comes out. Because if Chronos is another medium, I think that's a step backwards.
Yes.
But if Chronos becomes its own thing, and this is a great modern example of survival horror with an action focus, then great. Blooper Team are killers at this genre.
And you mentioned the medium and Layers of Fear. These are like the only 2 standalone games they've made that have been mixed received. Layers of Fear I know you've said otherwise before. I see it made fun of. Not in a bad way, like in a way where the game's still enjoyable, but not in a way where it's super scary, where it's effective at what it was trying to do.
No, yeah, that's not the impression I got from reactions of my impression was, this is a good indie horror game.
Okay.
It
could be.
like this is in that Amnesia level, for the time, because this was probably 10 years ago, close to of when Layers of Fear came out. I want to say 2015 sounds about right.
Yeah.
For that. And then Medium in 18, 19, 18,
2017.
17. Really? Wow. Okay.
No,
No.
I was looking at the Observer, the Medium's 2021.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That makes more sense. COVID makes timelines really tricky. In the before and after years.
I will say just to
I mean, but go ahead.
250 employees work at Bloober Team. So how
In the
is that
development,
just in general, and since
Big team.
2024.
big team.
It's a big team, yeah.
Big team. So maybe they've got some dual team development stuff going on right now, or because Chronos looks polished, looks close to done. The 26 window. No, not even. Is that set for this year?
I think it might be set for this year.
I think it is set for I think they said something about that.
And I have a feeling it's going to be a bit of a shorter game. It's not going to be a long 17-hour long experience. I'm expecting like 13, 12. So
we'll see.
that.
Yeah, I mean, survival horror, you can only keep people engaged for so long.
Yes.
So like I never really want a 20-hour survival horror game at all. Silent Hill 2 did feel, a little too long in the tooth for me, personally. But it felt a little more necessary for the size of the game. You had to add on new content or not add on new content. Well, I mean, that's exactly what they did. They just fleshed some areas out.
Yeah.
You have to do that for a remake, you would assume. Resident Evil 2 remake, for example, fleshed some areas out and made some other areas much shorter. So it's a balance of what our people are expecting in these games.
By the way, I thought Chronos was definitively coming out in 2025. It has a Q3, Q4 release date, but that's very.
That's what I was gonna say. I thought
they
they said like fall 24 or excuse me, fall 25 is what I thought they said on their SGF trailer.
Even so, I feel like there's good room for it to not come out the way they say it is.
Yeah, it would be so tricky to put out a game right now because there's just so much happening in this last half of the year and the first half of next year. There's this little game called Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out that you just do not want to be anywhere near. It's a tricky thing. So yeah, but all of that to say, Bloober Team has been on I think a steady rise. Maybe not so much in quality because I feel like Layers of Fear was better received than the Medium. But they went from a small studio to this is our first AAA game. So it's okay if you stumble a little bit along the way. Given another chance with Silent Hill 2, and that game is one of the greats. I think there's clearly some survival horror games that go above it.
Mainly because of gameplay reasons.
I would say so, yeah.
Definitely if you're solely looking at, if you're playing a horror game, what are the scariest horror games? It's
that one's up there.
Probably top 3, I would say. Just because
in terms of how scary they can get?
Yeah. And it's not even just like outright fear, but it's also all the other emotions you feel just going through a level. The ickiness. The
ickiness for sure.
Yeah.
The ickiness for sure. Because I described Silent Hill 2 as never reaching the peaks of some of the other, Dead Space and Resident Evil and even like Alien Isolation. Never reaching the peaks of scariness of that, but always having a consistent, I'm uncomfortable, like at all times.
Very hard to do.
That's a very hard thing to do because people get used to your world. People get acclimated. So for them to do that over a 15+ hour video game consistently is impressive.
Yeah.
That speaks to sound design. That speaks to lighting. That speaks to character design. That speaks to world, all of those things. So clearly we're on the up and up. Gameplay was rough in Silent Hill 2, but it's also not trying to be a combat-focused game. That's why I'm looking at Chronos and going, well, clearly that's supposed to be more combat-focused. Clearly you're leaning more into the Dead Space realm of survival horror as opposed to the Silent Hill or even, the Resident Evil style of survival horror where it's a little clunkier. The gameplay's not the main focus. It's everything else around it. So yeah, I'm fascinated. Also, what's exciting about this, there's not as much love for the first Silent Hill as there is for 2.
There's not.
Which means they can do a little bit, they can have a little bit more freedom in how they recreate the world. Now, I'm sure it'll still be faithful, but some things can move around. Some things can change. Things can get shorter. Things can get longer. What was good, we can lean into. What was not so good, we can lean away from.
Yeah.
So
I'm on the train for Silent Hill stuff. whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Silent Hill 1 remake. I just hope they do good.
I of course always hope they do good. I'm always excited for a remake. Always excited for a remaster. Put old things on new things so that we can have new fans.
Easier said than done.
Of course it is. Yeah. Connor, moving on to our third topic of the day. This is going to be your second penny of the day. Go ahead and take it away, my friend.
New code strings attached to Xbox Game Pass suggest a price increase may be imminent. This is from Windows Central, written by Jez Corden. That's the sub.
I'm sorry. I thought it was necessary. It's not.
Microsoft recently raised the price of Xbox Game Console. Then it raised the price of games to $80. Next on the list might be Xbox Game Pass. Over the past year, Microsoft and other companies have been gradually increasing the price of their products and services, blaming things like Trump's tariff war, and sticky inflation, and consumer confidence. Whatever the reason, shareholders don't seem to be too bothered with megacorps like JP Morgan, BlackRock, and Vanguard set to earn millions via Microsoft's dividend payouts this quarter. But hey, hedge funds could always use some more, right? Windows Central. I wouldn't expect someone called Windows Central.
Jez Corden don't give a fuck.
He does not. I like
No, Jez is great.
At RedPHX, who builds the rather amazing Better X Cloud Xbox Cloud Gaming enhancement project, noticed that Xbox Cloud Gaming recently added a new notification type dubbed, quote, subscription price increase, all one word, end quote, over the past few days. Fun.
It would be all one word for code.
Yeah, it would.
That's how coding works.
The strings pertain to pop-ups that Xbox Cloud Gaming serves to players who enable notifications on the Xbox.com/play web app. Most of them are innocuous enough, like reporting on rewards earned, achievement unlocks, friends coming online, and so on. But this latest one, specific to subscription price increases, is new. It's not a stretch to think that an Xbox Game Pass increase is imminent, given the fact that Microsoft decided now would be a good time to necessitate such a notification type. Either way, I don't think anyone is expecting Game Pass to stick to its current price. Netflix, Disney Plus, and other subscriptions are constantly increasing, or gunning for e-shitification tactics like Amazon Prime, which now seemingly has more ads than simply watching TV. So, the question is how much? Because it does seem imminent. When you increase the price of your games, you would think, okay, that's going to drive more people to do Xbox Game Pass, which makes sense. But if you're driving more people to Xbox Game Pass, and you're dealing with Microsoft, who are, I'm going to say it right now.
Oh, here we go.
Any executive at Microsoft, Xbox, I hate on a personal level.
Oh.
I don't like you at all. I think you're scummy. I think you are. What?
You don't know them.
Exactly. They act like I should know them while being who they are.
Who is he talking about?
They act like they're so positive. We love gamers. We love
who
the
are these
gaming
people
culture.
you're talking about? I don't know who you're talking about.
Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond. They come on. They talk to you like your friends. Whenever they do their showcases.
But that's an Xbox person. That's not a Microsoft person.
They're all of a kind.
You're talking Microsoft people.
I don't care, but Xbox, Microsoft.
I like Phil Spencer. I like Sarah Bond.
That's what they want you to think. That's what they want you
I mean, I don't know them, but I like
exactly.
I feel like those are the right people in the positions. The problem is, from my perspective, I understand the problem to be from Microsoft on high.
Snake oil salesmen, they're good at their job. No one's ever said they aren't.
Wow.
And it's scummy because they raised it to $80. You didn't need to do that. The price. I had an issue with raising it to $70 because the video game industry makes more than any other entertainment medium in the world, and it's constantly seemingly grown, and yet you constantly have layoffs, you have these price increases, and shareholder profits and executive profits don't seem to go down. And so all that in tandem makes it to where I didn't like the $70 price tag, but at least I could still, you could make an argument for it, as you did more so at the time. You weren't like, woohoo, we pay $70 for a game. You weren't like that. But you still were giving reasons why that's justifiable. And there were a lot of good reasons to do so, even if I disagreed with it in principle. $80, not at all. And in tandem with Xbox doing that, and now, on the horizon, them increasing their game subscription service, they're just trying to milk you for as much as you're worth. Yeah. Any reason they give you is a lie. Any reason they give you is obfuscation. They're trying to gain more and more money. And if they release it, listen, the price increase, if it's $15, I'll be like, yeah, you guys are greedy. I'll still do it because it is the better way with how the industry is going. to buy games unless I raise the flag,
Well,
which I might. But if it's $20, that's where it becomes especially egregious. It's already pretty bad, but $20 every single month for maybe a game that may not like a game that
PC
you wanna
Game Pass
play.
right now is $12 a month.
Yeah, so $15, that's actually not a big deal at all. I thought it was more, but they increased it before. So I'll put my foot down. $20 is egregious. Will they do that? I don't know. We're now just getting the mutterings that they are increasing the price. It's a wait and see for me. But I don't trust Xbox. I don't trust Microsoft. I know they're different, but I don't treat them as being different. I think their business model is to screw you over and make money. Not necessarily in that order, but they don't care about the gamers as much as they try to brand themselves as caring about it. And what are you going to say, huh? I like it.
You're going to make it very difficult for us to work within this industry
I know.
with
Hey,
that blunt and wide range.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you're who do we speak to? Do we speak to those people or the gamers, the viewers? Who do you want to serve more?
We speak to the viewers, but we should have a more educated and more delicate conversation than every Microsoft executive is trying to milk you for money. Because I do believe that production costs have increased. I do believe it costs more when you hire more employees and their cost of living goes up. So your cost of paying them goes up and all that. Now, I've been well versed on this podcast as saying, the executives have way too much money. But I believe that in all facets of life.
Yes.
Like there's a 1% who clearly has all of the fucking money, and none of us normal people have any of it. And there's no moral way to get to that level of money. There's no moral or ethical way to attain that amount of wealth without screwing over mass populace of people. I don't believe, even though they are rich, I don't believe the Phil Spencers of the world are at that level.
No,
I think there's people, they've got bosses too, and that's where my issues start going. I don't believe they're sitting there rubbing their hands together going, ooh, how can we squeeze more money out of them? I believe it's the fucking, as Jez Gordon puts it, the JP Morgans of the world.
See,
that make you go. The mega corporations like BlackRock, who I don't even fucking know who that is, and Vanguard. These are the people we have the problems with.
BlackRock is to give you a sense of who BlackRock is. One of the things they've done is buy up whole neighborhoods, suburbs, and then rent out those houses so people can buy homes.
That's how. Yes,
those are the root problem.
And again, my issue is not with these tech companies who make me pay $80 for a video game. I don't like that.
Yep.
I don't like that. Let me be very clear. Don't like that. But that's not where my problem with the human greed element is. Mine is with the people who are doing that.
Yeah,
and making living in a place unbelievably expensive. If I bought every video game that I was interested in, it would still be nowhere near the cost of my fucking rent. Which is constantly going up and getting harder to find a place where it's not at this level or higher.
Yeah.
For a way lesser quality neighborhood, I'm still having to pay, with you involved, $1,500 a month for that shit. That's ridiculous. It never used to be that. That's where the problem is.
It is.
Yes, video games are expensive. It's a luxury hobby. Video games. So I'm expecting a price increase on everything like that. Everything else is going up. The problem is I'm not getting paid to match it. And rent and food are the big things right now.
See, Tavin,
so yes, this inflation is just as concerning and just as annoying, right? But I can drop a video game anytime I want.
You can, which is one of the better things about it as opposed to other things. But in the same way you said Phil Spencer has bosses, these sources of problems that you've identified are only able to execute their plans because you have the Phil Spencer, who will try and say, well, I have a boss, I have to do what I need to do, and then they execute their will, whatever that might be.
Well, I think I think to counter that, when you throw your ire at a Phil Spencer, it allows these people up above to go, ha, got him.
Well,
now they care about Phil Spencer, they don't care about me.
You're right, but here's the thing. If we were running a political podcast, those people I would talk about way more. But because we do a video game podcast, and those are the people who deliver the news on the video games, they become the main subject of ire. Because I can hate these companies in an impersonal level.
So why are you
mad at a person?
Why are you mad at a well-paid middleman instead of someone who's actually cracking the whip?
Well, I actually hate the other people more. But there's a difference between personal annoyance with somebody and objective hatred and annoyance with somebody. Like, for example, Donald Trump is the worst into the Trump administration. I hate someone like Stephen Miller more, mainly because he's the one who's really pushing a lot of the things with the anti-immigration.
Sure.
Urging ICE to go into businesses, to Home Depots, and arrest people who are, legal. They're not legal, but they're, well-behaved
They're not
citizens.
criminals.
They're not criminals, yes. Now, I'll always save the object of the main point of hate to be Donald Trump. But when you get to, he's also funny. He acts like a human being. Stephen Miller acts he looks and acts like a psychopath. And so, not comparing Stephen Miller to Phil Spencer by far, but when you put yourself out there,
I wouldn't compare Phil Spencer to Donald Trump either.
No. He's the people who are the bosses of Phil Spencer are more comparable to that. But my point is that when you present yourself as a face of something, as an individual person, you're going to have to eat shit.
You're gonna.
You have to.
Yeah.
And you have to. So, while you are right, Tavin, and I maybe should be more angry at these people, but I think when I put a face to it, it's not the face of the nameless, shadowy executive who works at JP Morgan.
Okay. Well, I was about to counteract my own point, but yeah, like I don't disagree with you fully, but I also see the nuance here. So it's just not. I don't find it worth our time to throw all that heat on a Phil Spencer. I mean, not saying that it's not undeserved entirely, but because there's multiple times we've said it on this podcast. They need to stop talking sometimes, because Phil Spencer and the Sarah Bonds be out doing interviews, and usually they're great interviews. I've noticed they give us less interesting quotes now than they used to.
Say the line, drone. But here's the thing, Tavin. You're right. What we need to do, what we always advocate on this podcast, quality. We need to equally shit on Phil Spencer, and because he's the face of it and he's the pathetic peon, and hate the people who are directing him, the shadowy strings at their fingers kind of guy.
Also, just being people on the internet's just not going to change these things.
No,
So no. You can throw all that hate towards these people all you want, but unless you fucking vote
or you raise the flag. In this case, in the thing we're talking about. I made a reference to Straw Hat Luffy, the main character of One Piece, a while ago, as like a way for pirates. Get where I'm going with this, and you didn't get it. So
raise the flag. Got it. Yeah, I prefer different means of that, but
if you fight against it, you fight against it.
All more power. Because there's a way you could solve the problem and still support the art.
Buy more video games.
Well, yes, that.
And give them more money.
Well, what I'm saying is instead of flying the flag, you just keep buying video games. And have I ever told you who my favorite Mario brother is?
See, now you're saying
I'm not saying it's the Phil Spencers of the world, That's not who I'm saying, But JP Morgan's been real fucking comfortable. You know what I'm saying?
He was an asshole. I'm assuming. You can guess.
JP Morgan's dead.
Yeah. But you can guess he was an asshole,
Oh, yeah, he was.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? He might be one of the good ones. Because there was one billionaire during that period of time who actually did a lot of good. I don't think it was him.
Not him.
Yeah.
It's also not Rockefeller.
Rockefeller threw pennies at kids outside of his house when he would walk. I think that's who it was.
That's fucking funny.
It's funny, but at the same time, it's like, Jesus. Oh, shit.
Speaking of No King's Day protests that we talked about a little earlier, what?
No, that was my time code.
Oh, okay. I saw somebody with a sign that had the Luigi symbol in the bat signal in the clouds, like on their sign. I was like,
it was very funny.
I love people. I love people so much.
There were some good marketing campaigns going on there.
What do you mean by that?
There were some good signs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not a marketing campaign.
That's marketing in a way. You're marketing your protests and your political beliefs.
My favorite was if you think this is bad, no, what did they say? They said, this isn't even close to the level of party we'll have when you die.
That's
I was like, shit.
Another one was, I like my horchata with no ice. Oh, that was pretty good. You can be witty with it.
When are we getting another Luigi game? No?
Luigi's Mansion 4.
I don't want a Luigi's Mansion. I want something else. Give me a Luigi platformer.
Actually,
3D Luigi platformer. Throws the hat and jumps on it.
With ghosts.
Yeah. He gets scared. I don't know. Something. They'll figure it out. They're smart.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to our final topic of the day. My final penny. After 10 months, SAG AFTRA union has reached a tentative agreement with major companies, including
Look at you.
a tentative agreement with major companies, including EA, Warner Brothers, and Epic, over AI voice acting protections. We are pulling from PCGamer.com by Harvey Randall. SAG AFTRA, a large US-based union covering a ton of performing talent across multiple industries, has finally reached a tentative agreement with a series of major companies after 10 months of strike action. The strike, which began July 26 of 2024, is still ongoing until details are finalized, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. SAG-AFTRA members struck specific games and studios over critical AI protections to ensure voice actors wouldn't be working to replace their own jobs with generative AI. As the 30 Apex Legends actors who refused to sign an agreement back in February of this year put it, there's been not entire. I'm sorry, ads are popping in and out and making it hard to read. As the 30 Apex Legends actors who refused to sign an agreement back in February of this year put it, there's been not entirely unsubstantiated fear that, quote, give up our expertise to train the generative AI that will replace us tomorrow. Other major voice actors from games like Baldur's Gate 3, Mass Effect, and more have shown fear and frustration both at the rise of generative AI technology and game companies speaking effusively about it, seeming downright excited to cut out the kind of creative talent responsible for their past successes. As SAG-AFTRA's official announcement reads, the union has, quote, reached a tentative agreement on terms for the interactive media contract, subject to review and approval by the National Board and ratification by the membership in coming weeks. Specific details of the agreement will be released with the ratification materials. The agreement in particular is with some big names, quote, which include Activision Productions Incorporated, Blindside LLC, Disney Character Voices Incorporated, Electronic Arts Productions Incorporated, Epic Games Incorporated, Formosa Interactive LLC, Insomniac Games Incorporated, Take-Two Productions Incorporated, and WB Games Incorporated. Duncan Crabtree, Ireland, the union's national executive director and chief negotiator, says the agreement, quote, puts in place the necessary AI guardrails that defend performers' livelihoods in the AI age alongside other important gains. W's, wins. Took almost a year to get them. It didn't take the face actors, screen actors, nearly as much time as it took for this one. That's because, for whatever reason, they cut voice acting out of the deal on that one, which I thought was disgusting at the time. But we've still figured out a way to form some protections against the incoming AI threat.
The deal has yet to be fully finalized, so there is room for something to break down.
I saw there was
later.
an update. There was an update to this that wasn't included in what we read here. I don't recall it, but it seemed like good movement in the right direction. I think this is going through. I think we're going to be okay.
I mean, both would want a deal. Here's my big issue, and I'm sorry for anybody that doesn't live in America. There's recently been a bill that's come to be like a big news deal here in the United States. Trump's big, beautiful bill, as it's called. In that bill, there's a section on AI. I was trying to do... I'm bad at remembering stuff on the top of my head, especially when I decide to bring it up. But within it, it basically makes it to where, like, you can't regulate AI. States can't regulate AI for, like, the next 10 years or something like that. Basically making it to where it's far easier for AI to go unregulated. So... with that in mind, I don't know if there's a connection. I fear that when they made this deal, there's some crossover that might allow them to kind of skirt aspects of this deal and still use AI.
We'll see.
But I don't know.
I mean, you would know better than me, but that big, beautiful deal doesn't seem like it's going to...
It might not, no.
Yeah, I'm not fearful of that bill like they say I should be.
And I'm really reaching here because at the end of the day, these are specific protections for voice actors. It's not just AI in general.
Yeah.
So they probably are fine with just, giving in to the
fucking annoying actors do their little silly jobs,
Yeah, like fine, do that. We'll use AI for the things that are really shore up our time we spend on game development, which clearly is the big issue here.
Just the art.
Yeah,
part
right.
of it. Yes. Listen, with how disgusting corporate America and just capitalism can and often is, I'm gonna take the W's where I can. This is not a small W either. This is not a small win.
No.
This is a pretty sizable win. So I'm very, very excited about that. I'm glad that the strike can finally be over so that these actors can finally work. I'm glad that people can finally feed their families. And I'm glad that, on the selfish side of things, game production can continue and we can continue to get great work from all of these great artists coming forward. So this is great. Very excited to hear more details about what exactly is protected here. I'm sure it's not going to be as nice as we all would like it to be, but the fucking disgusting world of compromise that we have to live in, that otherwise is holding us back from a euphoric society.
The point is that AI is still a danger. It's still something to worry about, and any win is good, but wait and see.
As always. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to wait and see right alongside with us. Let us know down in the comments below what you thought about with all of the topics we discussed today. Let us know your 2 cents on any and everything that you could think of down there in the comment section below. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment for more. Make sure you follow us on social medias and on TikTok, Instagram, Substack. Links are in the description down below. And until next time, have a great time. Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Finally, we're done for the day. Go away. The viewers. Go.
So you don't have to go.
Well, I'm wasting my time with this fucking shit. And they sit at home,
wasting your time.
Yeah, I'm
as
wasting my
opposed to
goddamn
doing
time.
what?
To not
paint. Ooh, let me paint more models.
To staring
let me
at-
go.
to staring at walls. Yeah.
You do a lot of that. Just be looking at things. Goodbye, people.